The Cats continue their Canadian road trip tonight inside Bell Arena in Montreal, where the Canadiens have a big game for the playoff push, and the Panthers look to maybe make up some ground in the lottery standings. What's up, Florida Panthers Daily? I'm Andrew Sheridan, back here with you on Tuesday, April 7th. You can see the smile on my face. April 7th, it is my birthday, so I am a little happy in here on a Tuesday talking everything about the Florida Panthers. If you want to give me a birthday gift, it does a lot of good if you drop down below and hit that subscribe button. Leave some comments about any of the content that we have here on Florida Panthers Daily, because we go Monday through Friday, and well, we're approaching an off season. So I want to hear from you down below in the comments when you subscribe. What do you want us to focus on throughout the off season? You obviously are going to have some players leaving, going, signing. You're going to have some trades. You're going to have a lot of Panthers coming back healthy, hopefully next year, to revamp for another Stanley Cup final run. At least that is the plan as of right now from the Florida Panthers. We're also now on Spotify and Apple Music, so if you get your podcast there, go ahead every single day, give us a 5-star review, leave some ratings and reviews on Spotify and YouTube. It does us a lot of good, subscribing down below and listening on those platforms if you can leave a review there. Again, it's my birthday. I feel like I deserve a little bit of a present. I'm sitting here on a Tuesday with you right here on Florida Panthers Daily, part of the Fan Arch community. Before we jump into our game preview for tonight with the Canadiens, I do want to mention, I don't know if you saw the news yesterday, Andrew Sheridan, $5,000 fine, the maximum allowable under the CBA for his high stick in Pittsburgh over the weekend. So Andrew Sheridan in a little bit of trouble with the league office. Let's jump now into the game preview for tonight on April 7th. The Panthers up in Montreal in the middle of their Canadian road trip. The Canadiens, like I said, currently a playoff team, but they need to kind of really build some cushion. They already did clinch, but they want to hold on to that third seed in the Atlantic Division instead of falling into that wild card spot. The Canadiens average over 3 goals a game. Panthers still sit right below 3. And again, kind of that magic number it seemed like for the Florida Panthers is if they're giving up more than 3 goals, they're probably not going to win the game. So look for the Canadiens to get to that 3-goal mark, and I think that would be enough for the Habs tonight. The Panthers, though, they're not going to quit. We've talked about that here on Florida Panthers Daily. They want to play spoiler, especially to other teams in the Atlantic Division. Now, it might be a little different later in the week when the Panthers are taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. That might be a little bit of a who actually wants to win that game. It might just be an overtime, and someone's going to have to end up winning in a shootout. But as of for tonight, the Panthers, they have the better of the penalty kills in this game. So if the Panthers do end up with guys in the box like we have seen a lot with the Florida Panthers here recently, well, then they have a good chance to kill off the power plays tonight against the Canadiens. Canadiens power play unit around 24%. So it's the battle of the two teams' better power special teams units is what we will see in the matchup tonight. The last 2 times these teams met, the Canadiens were victorious in both of them. Back right before New Year's on December 30th, the Canadiens took down the Panthers 3-2. That one was in overtime. That was kind of a bit of a momentum swing for the Montreal Canadiens taking down the Florida Panthers in that one, and we saw the Panthers kind of spiral a little bit after that. And then right after New Year's, these teams met again north of the border where they will be playing tonight. That was a 6-2 final in that one. So again, that 3-goal number is kind of what we harped on here recently on Florida Panthers Daily. I expect that again tonight to hold true for the two teams in tonight's matchup. Takeaways pretty much going into this game, Canadiens have the better offense and they have the better power play unit, but the Panthers have the better penalty kill. It will be interesting to see how many bodies go to the box tonight and how that affects the game in this one. The Canadiens also come into this red hot. 8-2 in their last 10 games, only allowing under 2 goals a game and scoring more than 3 a game. So before their last loss, they were on an 8-game win streak. This is not a team that you are getting at the right time. Unless for the Florida Panthers and you don't mind a loss, maybe it is a team you are getting at the right time. They have all the momentum. The Panthers still coming in not with any. 4-6 in the last 10, under 3 goals scored in their last 10, and they're allowing almost 4 goals a game. Of course, a little bit skewed with what happened over the weekend in Pittsburgh. You know some of the names for the Montreal Canadiens, but if you're new here, you got Nick Suzuki. He's the playmaker. He's going to give them the consistent point production for that Canadiens team. And then Cole Caulfield on a 50-goal pace right now. And I mentioned the team's been hot in the Canadiens. A lot of it is because of him. He has been playing with his hair on fire, red hot recently. And then for the Panthers, you know the main guys you're looking out for, but you maybe don't know all the names because of all the injuries. We'll focus on some of the injuries later on in the week. They're coming off 1 day of rest. The Canadiens are. They are 6-0 in their last 6 when they have a day of rest. So I think all the signs kind of pointing to Canadiens win tonight. I don't like to say that here on Florida Panthers Daily, but the Panthers have officially been eliminated from the playoffs. That happened over the weekend with the losses to the Penguins. And the Panthers also struggle on the road, 16-21 on the road this year. So that the injuries have piled up for the Panthers, and it is what you see the result of here recently. And I don't think that'll match up well with the speed and the transition that the Canadiens like to play with, especially with how young they are. Sure, they might not have the experience once they get to the playoffs, but I expect tonight them to come out on fire and still prove a point against an Atlantic Division team. There was a good article that came out yesterday. I believe it was by George Richards, kind of just talking about the front office. And I want to focus on that here now for a minute on Florida Panthers Daily. Bill Zito, when he took over as the general manager for the Florida Panthers, it was a team that really didn't have DNA. They had success recently when he took over, but he came in and said, how do I get this team in South Florida to become a championship team that we've seen over the last few years? And well, he kind of took a step back and was able to oversee everything and kind of give a different viewpoint from what the Panthers have been working on. And it's also the new practice facility that the Florida Panthers recently opened. It was now a place that you can attract top talents to come get here. You had the big trade with Jonathan Huberdeau bringing in Matthew Tkachuk. You had former Panthers get brought on to the staff who kind of know what it's like to lose in South Florida. And I think the way Bill Zito was able to do that has kind of really laid the foundation for this Florida Panthers franchise that we have seen over the last few years, because it's been more success in the last 3 years than all of the years before that. On one of my first shows here, I said it's the most fun I've had as a sports fan was probably the last 2 years watching the Florida Panthers, just knowing the pain that the Panthers did go through to get to where they have been the last few years. I'm going to jump ahead first to the lottery outlook because I'm talking about that pain. Over the weekend, the Panthers did jump up to that 6th slot against over the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's pretty funny. The Maple Leafs, it's a top 5 protected pick, so if they do not end up in the top 5, they will not have their first-round pick. Of course, those two teams will meet later on this week, but right now the team right in front of the Florida Panthers, we have the same win percentage, but they have played 2 less games. That probably helps the Florida Panthers, and that is the Seattle Kraken. They've played 2 less games than the Florida Panthers, but have 2 less points, only 2 less points. So if those 2 extra games, they can pick up 2 points, now the Panthers move up in that draft stock a little bit higher for the lottery. And how awesome would it be? We talked about all the injuries that the Panthers are dealing with. If they can go into this NHL draft and find a talent, a top 10 talent to add to this roster next year that is already going to come back healthy, this team gets scary next year. But I want to focus now on this year just for a little bit because I mentioned the Panthers are looking to play spoiler for a lot of teams. Not as much tonight with the Canadiens because I said they have already clinched a playoff spot, but it is a wild card race that is heating up rapidly in the Eastern Conference. The only team in the Metro that has clinched a playoff spot is the Carolina Hurricanes. They look like they will win that division. Of course, the playoff format, you can go and nitpick these little details. I like having all 8. I don't mind the way they pick the 8, but then let's reseed those 8 from there. There's no reason to be doing a round robin within your own division to get to the next round. And I get the top teams get to play the wild card teams, which right now, the Lightning, it would be another Atlantic team. Either way, it's the 2 Atlantic teams holding the 2 wild card spots right now with the Bruins and the Senators. So I get that argument, but I like the way the 8 are decided. Your division should matter. It matters in every other sport. So have the division matter, but then let's reseed 1 through 8 with the highest ranking points because all 3 of the Atlantic teams would be the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference, and they would now be playing Metro teams or with the wild card a little bit different. But the Penguins, who the Panthers lost to twice over the weekend, they sit comfortably right now in the playoffs. They have 96 points. They're second in the Metro. The Boston Bruins sit atop the wild card spot. They're at 95 points. So by the end of the year, that could be a whole different shift, but that's not what we are here to do because the Panthers are eliminated from the NHL playoffs. But it's still fun to take a look, as we will keep you updated throughout the rest of the year, because sometimes it's fun to hate watch. If you're like me, you don't like the Boston Bruins. I like to see them drop in the standings. You don't like the Tampa Bay Lightning. Sure, you know they're going to be in the playoffs, but let's see them get a harder path. And that's what it is all about. We haven't had to hate watch here in a while because we have been in the playoffs, what feels like now, consistently. Well, because it has been. But this year, not the same. Until tomorrow, Florida Panthers Daily, I'm going to go enjoy my birthday again. If you're new here, please subscribe down below. It does a lot to the channel. And if you listen on Spotify or Apple Music, please leave a 5-star review. And also let us know in the comments on what you want us to focus on as we move in to the offseason. Until tomorrow, let's go Cats.